And we are back. Welcome to my first official Asia Cup / African Cup of Nations predictions video. Now, as you know, I'm a big fan of international football. I would like to see more competitive international tournaments. I'm not sure about them being played during the middle of what is the usual domestic season. However, the reason these get played now is because the African season and the African nation seasons and the Asian seasons are on their breaks at the moment, the equivalent of our summer breaks. So that is why these tournaments get played now. It does, of course, mean that usually the top talent from these countries gets taken away from their top European teams to play in this tournament, which, of course, makes them more interesting. But like I say, we are here. We're going to be doing this series every single day. There are matches in either of these competitions. So make sure you are subscribed to the channel so you don't miss out on any of the content we have got coming up. And if we are double booked, as it were, because I know coming up on Tuesday, we're going to have predictions for the African Cup of Nations, the Asia Cup, and of course our FA Cup replays. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to double upload. So I'll have both videos posted at the same time, but separate, so you can watch one and then watch the other. Let's get into it then. We've got 4 games for you today, 3 of them taking place in the Asian Cup, with 1 of them in the African Cup of Nations tonight. And as I say, let's get straight to it. So we'll start off in Qatar with the Asian Cup. Yesterday we had 1 game between the host nation Qatar. They were taking on Lebanon, and as I predicted, Qatar did come out on top by a heavier scoreline than I did predict, though they ended up winning 3-0. So we're going to start off today's predictions with the other game in Group A, and that is between China and Tajikistan. Now, a lot of people are going to be sitting here thinking, surely China take this one very comfortably. However, recent form of these two sides has suggested this is going to be anything but easy for China. China have invested a lot of money in their football over the last few years, and they're still really yet to see the fruits of their labour. And like I say, you look at their actual current form, the types of teams they've been playing, their side you would be expecting them to beat, but actually they've been losing. On the flip side, Tajikistan have been putting in some great performances recently. Their most recent fixture in World Cup qualifying, they beat Pakistan 6-1, which, again, Pakistan aren't a very good footballing side, but to lose that heavily, and again, Tajikistan have been getting good results in friendlies as well. They recently drew with Russia. I know we shouldn't really talk about Russia, but they drew recently with Russia, who did play the majority of their main players that we do recognise, players that still play in Europe, and Tajikistan managed to get a draw against them as well. So this is a really tough one to call, and I think a lot of people just think China are going to win this one really, really easily, but I'm not so sure. I was very, very tempted to go for a draw, but I have to think that this is now a major competition. China will definitely want to do well in this competition, and like I say, people are expecting China to do well in this competition. So I'm going to go for a very cautious 2-1 win to China, but watch this space. I really do think Tajikistan could come up with a result today. Going back in time, because the earliest game in the Asian Cup today is actually going to be taking place this morning, and that is between Australia and India. What an incredible cricket match that would be. However, on the football side of things, Australia are just leaps and bounds ahead of India. Again, considering the population of India, you would have expected by now, and how big a sporting nation India is, you would have expected them to start producing a few more footballers by now, but it's just not really happened for them. They obviously have a lot of other priorities sports-wise in that country, but it's just not happening for India. If India, honestly, I think if India even score today, I would consider that to be an upset. I'm going to go for 4-0 Australia. They should absolutely demolish India, and we'll see. Best of luck to India. It'd be great to see an upset, but I just don't see it happening. And the final game in the Asian Cup taking place in the later game in Group B is going to be Uzbekistan taking on Syria. And Uzbekistan are a very, very good side at the moment. They have been gradually progressing, getting better and better and better over the last few years. Again, they've got a few players that play in the Champions League and in Europe and a couple of other places. Syria, they're an okay side. Again, they have a couple of players dotted around, but not on the same level as Uzbekistan. Again, if you look at these two sides' current form, Uzbekistan have been picking up results against European teams in friendlies, winning almost all of their Asia games, whether that's qualification for this tournament or qualification for the World Cup. I expect Uzbekistan to get the win tonight. I'm going to go for 3-1 to Uzbekistan. And then rounding off the day, we then move from the continent of Asia to the continent of Africa for the opening game of the African Cup of Nations taking place this year in the Ivory Coast. And we'll kick things off with the opening game of the tournament between the Republic of Ireland and Guinea-Bissau. That's the only one. I promise. That's the only one. It is, of course, the host nation, the Ivory Coast, taking on Guinea-Bissau tonight. And again, I just don't see this being anything other than an Ivory Coast win. Guinea-Bissau, again, they have a couple of players, but if you look at the Ivory Coast team, I think even the most average of football fans will recognise at least 3 or 4 players from the Ivory Coast team. They're expected to do well. Don't get me wrong, again, Guinea-Bissau have produced some very, very good results over the last few weeks, and even the Ivory Coast manager came out in his press conference saying that this is not going to be an easy game. However, I think at the end of the day, given it being that Ivory Coast are the host nation, it is the first game of the tournament. I'm going to go for a 3-0 win to Ivory Coast. And that is going to be it for the opening day's video when it comes to AFCON and the Asia Cup. Make sure to check in tomorrow when we're going to do it all over again for tomorrow's fixtures. Let me know all of your thoughts down in the comment sections below as to what you think is going to happen. And please do correct me if I ever get any of these pronunciations wrong on some of these countries. I'm very much say what you see. So I will pronounce a lot of these countries wrong at times. But thank you very much for watching. As always, I will see you tomorrow morning.